That is an Eddieism. Eddie, what does that mean?
That they're good, like they're full bag of chips.
So I could say, this is a good team, or I could say, they're the full bag of chips. Okay.
Oh, she's not terrible.
I'll take it to the candy shop.
Eddieism or not?
No.
That's 50 Cent, you're correct.
If I said that, I'd be worried.
You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Joe presents Baz and Andrew's House of Rugby, together with Guinness.
Hello and you're very welcome to Baz and Andrew's House of Rugby here on Joe, together with Guinness.
So I've been campaigning for this for a long time. Finally, we've made our way to Cork. I love Cork. I love everything about Cork. We're going to get into a few Cork stories later on.
He got a nosebleed when he came to Limerick, so I don't know what he's going to be like when he came to Cork. I have the most Cork name in the world, actually. I've gone off script. Barry Murphy. Eddie O'Sullivan thought I was from Cork a few minutes ago. He's like, "So you still live here?" I was like, "Nah, I'm from Limerick, man." I met a guy in a plane a few years ago, and he was like, "How are you after retiring?" And I was like, Good, yeah, grand." And he goes, "Jeez, you're a good player, but not as good as your father." And I was like, Did you play with my father? Well, no, but fuck it, he was some player. He was one of the best of all time. And I was like, my dad played for Bowes, like, he was it's grand. And after about 20 minutes, I realised he thought I was Jimmy Barry Murphy's son. And I was like, that's his surname. Barry Murphy is his surname. So where do you start? But look, we're delighted to be here, and what a week to do it. The dawn of a new day in Irish rugby, the era of Andy Farrell taking over. We could not be more excited. And look, the two of us have been doing this for a couple of years now, and you know as well as we do, we come up with some ridiculous analogies and comparisons, and for some reason people keep listening and thinking that we're making sense.
And the joke's on you.
Yeah. It's just that we haven't watched the matches at the weekend, and this is the best we can analyse them. Mm-hmm. But my favourite one that we've done so far is when we looked at the Joe Schmidt era, and we thought, wow, it's so like the Star Wars saga. And when we got to the end of that, we thought, like, it was basically beating the All Blacks. That's what he'll be remembered for twice. And just like the Star Wars original series, A New Hope, Empire Strike Back, and Return of the Jedi, that's what it embodied. But then we realised that, fuck, what came after that? And it was Jar Jar fucking Binks. So he called Andy Farrell Jar Jar Farrell, right? Thinking that Jar Jar Binks was going to be the next, I suppose, representation of Irish rugby. We're going to head into this shitty, kind of weird saga that didn't work. But we've just realised in the last few days that we're going to put a twist on it. So let me take you...
It's a twist, but really, I think we all know what we're doing. We're just rehashing old stories. So sorry about that.
It's a reach, but look, A New Hope was... We'd never beaten the All Blacks, and we wanted desperately, it was all we wanted. And we went into Chicago, the game in Chicago, believing we could because of Joe Schmidt, Obi-Wan Kenobi. He had showed us the Force, how to do it. We had Johnny Sexton, Luke Skywalker. We had Dev Toner as Chewbacca. We had, who was the little robot lad? C-3PO.
We were struggling for a role for him, but we thought Richard Strauss was the closest thing.
Yes.
He wasn't in Chicago, so that's an inconsistency.
Rob Kearney, C-3PO, quite robotic in his movements, quite boring.
All these people, anybody who's listened to the podcast, you could be forgiven for thinking that I was the only one involved when we beat the All Blacks. But I don't know if any of you knew, there were loads of other people there.
Trimby is one of those lads in the planes that floats around the place in Star Wars. Do you know those guys, the fighter jet guys that no one really remembers? So in many years to come, you'll be like, no one will know whether you played or not. But
Unless that fighter pilot started a podcast and changing the past.
You were important. You were important. So we go out, we beat them. It's amazing. We've beaten the dark side, which is the All Blacks, of course. Then Empire Strikes Back the following week in the Aviva. They come back and kick the absolute shit out of us. They decapitate half our team. We get so many injuries.
It was worse. It was more violent than the time Flannery volleyed that French player. Do you remember that?
And we were like, fuck, they're back. Darth Vader was kicking the whole off, lads. And it was just like, wow. But then the Return of the Jedi, we regathered. We built the Force stronger. Luke Skywalker got stronger. Obi-Wan got stronger. We added little additions like the All Blacks were coming to that going, we don't know who any of these players are. Does Brian O'Driscoll still play for Ireland? Fucking Han Solo, whatever. But we had the little Ewoks who were like Keith Earls. Have you ever seen Keith Earls throw a stone or a spear? He's unreal. He's from Limerick. Like, he was lashing stones off him. So we get the better of them, beat them and that. And also, it dawned on us who Darth Vader was all this time. Ronan O'Gara.
So, for me, one of my overriding impressions of Raj is whenever you're chatting to him, he'll sit quietly for long periods of time, and then he'll just go, yeah. And that coming from someone in a Darth Vader mask is even better.
Yeah. Correct. I love when Raj affirms something like that you've said. He's like, correct. I'm like, oh, fuck.
I love Raj. You know, I didn't have the heart. Whenever we did a Dublin live show, we arrived. He was in a Celtic jersey and I was in a Rangers jersey. And we thought about continuing that on. I thought the equivalent down here could be like a 2003 Ulster jersey with Humphreys in the back. But I can't even do it. I can't do. I love Humph, but I love Raj. I can't even do it.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to get it sorted.
The reason Raj is Darth Vader is because he went down to the Crusaders and he was probably in their ear telling them how to use the Force against Ireland. That was our take on it. But then I reckon, this is our conspiracy theory, that he called up Joe Schmidt or Johnny Sexton, Luke Skywalker, and remember in Star Wars Return of the Jedi when he picked up the Emperor and he fucked him off the banisters into space? It was the equivalent to that. He rang and said, look, if you hit up once off a line out and then go back the blind side, they don't defend the backfield. Their winger gets too far in. Stockdale will chip, score, and we're onto the posts. And I think that's what happened. So he's Darth Vader. Fuck, we're getting there.
That's actually all we have time for tonight.
So we beat them, and it was amazing. And then we thought, fuck, the next era is Jar Jar Binks. But we realised this week that Jar Jar Binks was the World Cup. Because Obi-Wan he's dead years, right? He was just floating in the clouds. So Joe Schmidt told us he was leaving a year ago. But he's gone. He was gone for the World Cup. We lost it. We didn't progress. Just like in Star Wars, they were like, let's just stick some CGI in there. Like, we were the same, we just do some box kicks. Big grand, same old shit. Same old rehash, just the obvious crashing up and all that. So that was that era, it's gone. But
let's
the new
use
era...
CGI to make Jar Jar Binks' ears more floppy than ever.
Disaster. But the new era of Andy Farrell. What is Andy Farrell? He is Skellig Michael. Am I right? He even looks like Skellig Michael. It's kind of got that. He looks like his head has been battered for 1,000 years by storms. So he's just there, like, and Luke Skywalker lives on him, right? So Johnny Sexton lives on his head. There's birds flying around, and the girl, what's the girl's name? Ray. She represents the new players like Lamour. James Ryan, all these young lads coming through who are now going to train on his head and learn from him because he represents something a bit more, something new, something different. So now we are back to believing that we're going to win the Six Nations and become the greatest Irish team that ever was. Jesus Christ. And this thing is here. One of many Six Nations cups, I'd imagine. You cannot touch this. Is that bad luck if I touch it? It's okay if I touch it, right?
Yeah, it's fine if you touch
Fine
it.
if I touch it. Okay, so for tonight's show, it's been a while since we've been on the road, obviously. So we're going to get ourselves in the spirit of the Guinness Six Nations this week. We want you all to have a great night here at Reardens, and they put on an unbelievable spread. Thank you so much for having us. But we've got a great show in store for you. We've got Jerry Flannery, we've got Annie Miller, and we've got Eddie O'Sullivan joining us later on. But before that, we've got the Guinness Pint Predictor spiel, basically. So the Guinness Pint Predictor is an app that you can get in your phone that we're all involved in.
Yeah,
and
we're going to get more. Our black and white feature, we feel we've took advantage of that. Let's say we're going to get a bit more competitive with the black and white, so we're actually going to genuinely test our rugby knowledge.
yes.
So anyway, go on, Match Pint.
No, you're
Download Match Pint, then go on, and there's a game inside it called the Pint Predictor, and you basically just predict the 3 games of the weekend, who's going to win and by how much. You can stick yourself in a league with us, and then tonight, if you download it, take a screenshot, and then send us an internet on Twitter, and use the hashtag, what is it? HOR Cork.
Hurry.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. You need the HORIE to get into the league with us.
I have no notion what he's talking about. Enough of that.
Sorry, we had to do that.
Will we get our first guest out?
Yeah, is it?
Do you want to introduce him?
Yes. Anyway, we don't know what we're talking about when it comes to rugby, but this man does, despite being completely spineless and not being able to stick a fully professional coaching role. Spineless Flannery.
Takes the steps. How are you, Jeer?
Well, lads,
What's going on?
Star Wars thing went better than I expected.
Oh,
You made an absolute bollocks of the match point thing.
Yeah.
put all our effort into. Can you explain the match point thing better than we have? No.
That was your job. I think you download the match point app and then you just send a screenshot saying you've downloaded it to somebody somewhere, and then at the end we have tickets for the game at the weekend.
Correct. That's
so you
great.
can win tickets if you can figure out this competition, which we don't even understand ourselves.
Correct.
Somebody will get some information to us at some stage about how this works, and we'll try and relay it to you.
There you go. Thanks. If anyone has any questions, go to Pat.
Go to Pat, tell him your name. He'll write
HOR.
everyone's names down. We'll pick the names out of a hat.
We'll do a raffle. Brilliant. Right.
Sorry, Pat.
Six Nations Week, but it's also Munster Junior and Senior Cup Schools Week. Fla, what are your best memories of coming down here with St. Munchin's College and most likely playing against Pres and Christians?
I've lots of memories of coming down here. Not great ones because we didn't win that often, but I suppose I was told to say buying my boots in Moss Finn's because it's just closed, but I never bought my boots there because I would have my boots with me when I was driving down for a game. So
It hasn't closed, right? He's just retired. Oh, it's closed. Oh, sorry.
I just had to try and squeeze it in some way.
Yeah.
My memories probably... What is the story with those bags that you all have? Those weird bags with the stripes on them. We would all be coming down and we'd be like, what is the fucking story? Why do they all have these dorky bags?
The sailor bags.
And why do they all look so proud when they have them? They're so impractical. The bags are about this long. I don't know, what do you put? Do you put sails in them? Do you put oars? What are they for? Why do you all look so proud? This guy, you definitely have a sailing bag.
Your mic is too far away from your face.
My face is too far away from the mic. And the same thing, actually, I think Peter O'Mahony, I was actually in Paul O'Connell's house, and I said, what the fuck is that? Is that one of those sailing bags? He goes, yeah. He goes, Peter O'Mahony got one for me as a present. This is a true story. And he's there. I said, do you use it? He goes, not really, no, but I just kind of keep it around in case he shows up. All right, fair enough. And the other things that stood out from Cork, coming down and coming from Limerick and seeing where the girls have got like, their skirts come down to here. And when we were coming down, the girls' skirts in Cork were to here. And we used to lose all the time. And I used to be like, all of these players, all the guys have hit puberty way earlier than me because they're all shaving since first year. In fact, I think most of the time it was little adults we were playing against. They were putting out just small people from Cork playing against us from under 13s, 14s, 15s, and then just being jealous of all the Cork players.
And there was a smell of dog food, wasn't there? Or something.
I didn't say that. That's a reach.
Up around Prez and Christians, there was always a smell of dog food in the air. Do you remember that?
No.
Or was it a brewery or something? Can anyone shine any light on that?
Brewery, yeah, same thing.
Murphy's Brewery, was it? Okay, there you go.
Murphy's dog food.
Trim, you have any experiences in Cork?
Not really. We never got to play any schools down here. We got beat by Dolphin, but with Ballymena, we got beat a couple of times by Munster. Standard stuff. Yeah. Whether we were in Limerick or Cork, we often got beat. So it's a bit of a sob story.
Do you want to talk about it?
No, I'd rather not.
My best memories from Cork are the two celebrating the 2006 and 2008 Heineken Cup finals. We come down here on the Monday or Tuesday afterwards, and I don't know if any of you were there, but they'd have a big stage in the middle of I think it was Patrick Street or maybe Washington Street or something, and Snoutmal. And Michael Corcoran was doing the MC, and he'd get us all up on stage, a massive crowd. And by Tuesday, after winning the cup on the Saturday, you're bent. Like, remember, we were fucked. But you'd still be trying to go again. And we came in here that night, and it was mobbed. But they were always my fondest memories. Or training in Musgrave Park, and obviously back then it was different. We had to come up and down 2 or 3 times a week to train, right? Brian Hickey, I think, probably the biggest maniac that we would have trained with down here.
The Cork coaches, Declan Kidney and Brian Hickey, being crazy. I remember Brian Hickey would come out, and whenever we got to a European Cup game, he would always try and start fights in training. So if I wasn't starting, I would try and throw the ball into the line, and he would stand behind me as the touch judge. I'd throw it in, he'd shout crooked, then he'd run in and start refereeing, and then we'd be in the middle of a maul, and he'd start pulling the head off one of us. And we'd be like, what are you doing, man? Are you the referee? Are you playing? What are you... Just trying to start fights, which you didn't really have to do because they happened organically all the time. Sitting in Musgrave Park and having 2 of the lads in the car park offering each other out after training. And I was like, Brian, your work is done here, man. This stuff just happens.
Yeah. I remember in Musgrave Park, it was the weekend before, or the week before the Sale match in 2006. And we were in the little shitty old bar that used to be Musgrave Park.
Shitty's harsh.
It was
Quaint.
It was a lot of character. And we were in there doing this is where we would do our previews and reviews of matches, like sitting on those stools that were about that high, crammed in there. And Jim Williams was doing a pre-match preview before training, and he was talking away, and then Decky wandered out of a room over here with a water pistol in his hand and started squirting us in the face, and Jimmy just kept going. And then he sat down on Dennis Fogarty's lap and started like grinding into him and kissing him and stuff. And we were like, he's finally lost it.
He licked his ear.
I was like, he's finally lost it. It was coming, but he's finally lost it. And then he eventually just goes, now, can anyone tell me one thing that Jim Williams has said in the last 5 minutes? Like, no. And he goes, there will be distractions on Saturday, lads. Like, touche. It won't be you dancing around the pitch, you weirdo.
If I start getting a lap dance during the game off a 45-year-old man, I'm going to get distracted.
All right, well, look, the week that's in it, we got our predictions for Andy Farrell's team wildly wrong.
Yeah, I think Farrell listens to the podcast.
Yeah.
And just decided to go a different route.
Whether he's right or not, we'll soon find out.
He's not right.
He's not
We're right.
What are your thoughts?
I think Munster's representation has suffered because of probably not progressing from the pool stages. I think it's a fresh team. It's exciting. I'm a little bit. The only place I'd be concerned is possibly how our lineup might fare. Just with Herring at 2, I like him as a player. I think he's solid. With Henderson there, it's just that the Ulster lineout is the second worst lineout in the Pro 14 at the moment. But I'm sure that they'll get it right at the weekend. I'm not sure actually, but I'm trying to be positive. It's the one thing that has me nervous, but I suppose that's why Pete is on the bench and Dev Toner's on the bench. They have that security there. But apart from that, I'm excited to see Caelan Doris play, and I'm excited to see. I'm glad that Conor Murray's gotten another shot. I know that form is the big thing, and that's what he said he was going to pick on. And Cooney has been the form 9, but I think you've got to take the ability of players into account as well. So Conor Murray's got to perform at the weekend. He has in the past, but if he doesn't, John Cooney's there. So I think it's an exciting team.
Munster supporters, whenever they heard the team was announced, Munster supporters went, "We are in turmoil. This is crisis. We've only got 3 players in the starting 15." Ulster supporters went, "Yes, we've got 3 players in the starting 15." For me, I think there's a lot of 50-50s. There's a lot of whatever he decided to go with. You kind of go, that makes sense. A lot of them make sense. Line out, as you say. Back row, it's nice to see Caelan Doris get in there. It could have been Max Deegan easily. Could have been Cooney easily. But Conor Murray's Conor Murray. Then centre could have been Bundy, could have been Henshaw as well. So there's a lot of stuff was up for grabs. A few guys didn't train that much, though, so it's not a pure, that's his first choice. Am I right?
Earl Z, I don't think is trained. Addison has been a little bit. I think he's been carrying a knock or something like that.
Those two, and I think he mentioned Cooney hadn't trained that much as well, but it was mainly those two. So anyway, there'll be more up for grabs. I think on down the line. I don't think he's going to change everything overnight, but he might make a couple of changes over the course of Six Nations.
Yeah. Scotland, Finn Russell, obviously out of the fray. What's your take on that?
As a coach, what's your take on that?
Shit. It's pretty.
He's a muppet.
Scotland are in a shit enough place that they don't need their best player going on the piss on a Sunday, and then I think did he stay in his mum and dad's house and then miss training the next day? I was like, so look, Scotland are up against it. I thought they were really, really poor in the World Cup, and I think Finn Russell is a guy who can be a game breaker, but. Look, they don't have him now, so happy days for Ireland.
Okay, will we do our prime predictions now? Will we do them now? Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do them. Yeah. All right. What do you think?
Pops his head. Go on, do it. Yeah.
Good producing, Pat.
No, we won't do it.
Ireland by 15.
15. Okay. I'm going to go Ireland by 19.
I think Ireland will put probably 18 points on them.
Okay, 15, 19, 18. Okay, so get on the pint predictor, challenge us, and you'll win yourself a delicious pint of Guinness. All right, we're going to take a quick break for a piss and a pint, and we'll all come back and we'll have our 2 first guests on. Actually,
mystery guests. Do they know who they are?
While you're on the break, I'm sure everyone here saw Billy Holland and his wife Lanley on the Late Late Show last week. Yes. I'm sure you're unbelievably proud of Billy and Lanley because two amazing Cork people, and what they're doing has blown my mind. They've raised over €500,000 in a week for Crumlin Hospital. It's just beautiful for their little baby girl, Emmeline. And I think what Emmeline is going to leave behind her in her memory will just... thanks for that. It's just really incredible. They will get to name, I think, a unit after her in Crumlin, and I just can't talk more highly about the Billy and Lanny, the most beautiful people. So if you haven't donated, which I'm sure most of you have, if you haven't donated, please go on Billy's GoFundMe and give them a little donation as well. And in the meantime, we'll take a quick break. Thanks. Lads and lasses, Pat has come on to properly explain match point.
Right, lad. All right, so here's what we do, right? It's a very simple four-step process.
Okay.
What you do is you go onto the Matchpoint app,
Yes.
you join it. You're looking for a league,
Correct.
and how you join our league is you find it by putting in HORIE. So you've found that. Easy, isn't it?
Yeah.
What you do next then is, once you've joined the league, send a screenshot of yourself in the league to prove that you're there to the hashtag HORCork
On Twitter.
on Twitter. No. There's still time.
Yep.
So what happens is HOR Cork, just send it to us. There's 2 years have done it so far already, so they're top of the class. They're top of the class, right? So send it to HOR
Look,
Cork.
lads, you get a chance to win 2 tickets to the match of the weekend.
Yeah. The prize is 2 tickets for Ireland, Scotland, and then the week after 2 tickets for Ireland, Wales, women, and then also what Trimby's wearing right here.
Trimby is wearing 2 Guinness jackets. At some point in the show, he is going to strip to a dance version of the Fields of Athenry.
So Guinness, they're not known for their clothing, but this feels like excellent quality. I don't think they don't feel like they're going to fly well. I think I'm going to get them. It's going to be you. I think the 4 of you basically are in the running for winning 2 coats. So it's pretty exciting, and I'm roasting, so they'll be coming off very soon. Keep your wits about you.
So, very simple. Are you stripping already?
I just realised he was singing.
Here.
Trippy, do not throw that second jacket.
Mind your pints.
No.
I gotta try.
Get the second one. It's like bowling.
Get that one.
They're not easy to
No.
throw. 'Cause they're light.
Trippy, please.
Come on, man.
Anyway, like,
This guy lost his pint, and I think you should give him the coat because he's the one who took the hit. Oh.
yes, a free. I feel myself getting sacked in the morning now about this.
I'm sorry.
Another pint of Guinness for this worthy winner down here.
So that's it. Yeah.
Okay,
that's,
thank you, Pat. That's amazing.
So listen, 2 people top of the class right now. They're going to be they're pole position to win tickets
Yep.
for Ireland, Scotland. So anybody else get involved in the whole night. And listen, I'll get out of here right now.
Okay.
And please just stick to the script as much as you can, please.
Proddy Pat, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, welcome back to Reardens Bar in Cork. We've got our next 2 guests to come out. First up, we've got one of the best wingers to ever line out for Connacht in Ireland. 24 tries in 47 Irish Test matches, 25 tries in 40 games for Ireland Sevens, a 2-time Six Nations winner, including a Grand Slam win in 2013 and a match winner in a famous World Cup win over New Zealand in 2014. Hailing from Portlaoise, it's Ireland's record try scorer, Ali Miller. Woo!
We slip on this. How are you, lads?
Yeah.
How are you?
Right.
Are you going to buy him a pint?
First.
Are you going to buy him a pint?
Mop that up with your jacket. Okay, next, a very special man who granted Test debuts to myself, Fla, and Barry. This man coached Ireland for 7 years, and he won 3 Grand Slams. He beat Australia twice, beat South Africa twice. Back then, that didn't really happen very often. A very special man.
Grand Slams.
3 Triple Crowns. Sorry.
I was like, Jesus, where was I?
He was very successful. Very special man, Eddie O'Sullivan.
Hey! Cheers, Ed. Thanks, man. Thank you. Cork's very own, huh? All right, it's Six Nations week. We have the under-20s on Friday night in Musgrave Park. We have the lads in the Aviva on Saturday. And we have the ladies in Donnybrook on Sunday. Ali, it's 10 Six Nations championships in a row. Is that right?
Yep.
This is your first retired, watching from the sidelines. How sad are you, or how hard? Are you in the honeymoon period of retirement, or are you finding it hard?
No, I'm finding it great.
Okay.
I have suddenly a love of red wine, so that's helps. You know, when my younger sister's on the squad now, so over Christmas when she was doing all her fitness regimes, training, going to camps, I was like, yes, this is the first Christmas I can actually really, really enjoy. So also, a lot of people that retire talk about, oh, it's terrible getting removed out of the WhatsApp groups. I removed myself straight out of all those WhatsApp groups. I was like, yes, no more WhatsApp groups, no more emails, no more from the IRFU. So I'm loving that. So I don't know if anyone else enjoyed that, but I seem to be the only one. So
I remember John Hayes when he retired. He pretty much threw his jersey out the window of his car and his iPhone, and was like, I think Dowling texted a group of us after we'd retired and was like, lads, I was thinking like on Wednesdays we could get together and have some breakfast and do a bit of training and maybe, and he set up a WhatsApp group and Hayes responded, goes, don't ever fucking text me again. So you're in the Hayes neck of the woods.
Yeah, if I could go back and play the 5 games, happy out, I'd enjoy that, but the lifestyle around it, I'm not missing as much yet.
You play a bit of club though. Was that always the intention, or did you come out and then realise you missed the crack?
No, yeah, it was always my intention to stay playing club, and I'm still playing provincial rugby. So, yeah, it's good to kind of see a different side of rugby that maybe I wasn't involved in. Obviously, the women's not fully professional, so you would have played a little bit of club while you're still playing international. So, I'm captain of Old Belvo this year, so we're going to try and win the league this year. I've never won a league with them, so that's our aim anyway. So,
okay. I know you had a pretty horrific ankle break last year. Sorry to break it up. I hate when people bring up my injuries, but was that a part of the decision to retire, and how is that now?
Yeah, it's fine. It's actually never been better. No, it wasn't actually, because I'd probably, I'm 35 now, so you know, you want to do other things with your life. You still love rugby, but I mean, I have a full-time job, so you mean you've got your Saturday and Sunday, and I mean, you're going to go into training camps for all your life, or are you going to do other things? So there's a bit of that as well. The leg was very bad, but I think I'd been planning possibly retiring that year before that Six Nations when I broke it. And then when I broke it in the second game, I was like, I actually thought I was gone then. I was like, oh, I won't go back. So I went back for another bite of the cherry to finish on my own terms. And now I'm delighted I did that, because I've no doubts that I want to play anymore. I've no doubts that I could have played anymore. And, you know, you're happy, you're at peace with it. A lot of people don't get to do that. They get injured or they don't get picked, and that's hard for them. They hold that for a long time. So I'm in a really good place with that. Okay. Yeah.
And Sunday, you're looking forward to the women's game on Sunday. Yeah. How do you think they're shaping up?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of improvement from watching the women's, or playing in the women's Interpro. There's makings of a really good team. They're really young. Like, there's a lot of the girls that are like 17, 18, 19, 20. Unfortunately, the women don't play a lot of games, so we've just seen them in November. They played Wales in UCD Bowl. They narrowly lost the last play, but because we don't see them that much, it's hard to tell how their training is going. Now, obviously my sister's in the squad. I missed her by a year, so she'll fill me in. But I think they'll do really well, and I think it's exciting. They've got a nice blend of youth and experience. And they have a big year. They have to try and qualify for the World Cup in September, so it's all leading to that. But yeah, I think, you know, they should be targeting win their 3 home games, and then, you know, they're in the mix then.
I think we're obviously going to get into, I want both your opinions on Andy Farrell's selection and how the men will do.
Jar Farrell.
Skellig Michael Farrell.
Before we get into it, I know it's with the Six Nations and Andy Farrell stuff, but we've got Eddie here, and renowned as a brilliant coach, but also renowned for some of his sayings. And
just before you start, can I just say...
Don't try and steal...
I just want to get this in. I made a lot of decisions. I've made a lot of decisions as a coach, and I just want to say that the 3 best decisions I made were capping you and Trimby and Baz. I never regretted that.
We'll get to that.
No, I did drop you as well, so...
What I want to know, what is the idea behind it? Is there a process? Do you sit down and turn around to your missus and say, Noreen, I'm heading out there for a minute now. I'm just going to come up with a few more sayings to baffle people. What is the idea behind them?
If I talk like that, she'd punch me. Well, for example,
I want to play a little bit of a quiz. Go on, for example.
you want to know why I would use those phrases?
What is the crack behind them? Because I don't think anyone understands what you're saying sometimes when you
But
say
they,
them.
but they remember them. That's the main thing.
Well, here let's play a little quiz, Ali. If you'll give me a chance, I have a couple of Eddieisms. Okay, so obviously everyone knows you can't unring a bell. But I'm going to give you 6, and I want you to tell me which is an Eddieism and which
Don't
is
become an impersonator.
which is an Eddieism and which is not.
Right.
These guys are a full bag of chips. Eddieism or not?
Not.
That is an Eddieism. Eddie, what does that mean?
That they're good, like they're full bag of chips.
So I could say, this is a good team, or I could say, they're the full bag of chips. Okay,
Oh, she's not terrible at these.
I'll take you to the candy shop. Eddieism or not?
No.
That's 50 Cent, you're correct.
If I said that, I'd be worried.
You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
That's going to be on your grave.
It's there already.
Welcome to the jungle.
No, I don't think so.
Axl Rose.
25 years and my life is still trying to get up that great big hill of hope.
Yeah? No.
4 non-blondes. And the last one,
It's like looking for a Mars bar in a bucket of shit.
Sounds like something he might say. But
correct. That is an Eddieism.
I remember when I said that.
I actually
And
want
why
to,
I said it.
I want to probe this one further. I want to probe this further because I like a Mars bar. You must absolutely love a Mars bar, because if someone said to me, Fla, I've got a Mars bar for you, but it's there in a bucket of shit, I'd probably just say, I'll pass on that one. So at what stage does someone love Mars bars so much that they go wading through a bucket of shit for it? Tell me.
I remember when I used it because we were doing a rucking drill and the rucking was absolute shit, to be honest. And Stringer couldn't get the ball out of the ruck. There was bodies all over it. And I said, well, he gets to the ruck and he might as well be looking for a Mars bar and a bucket of shit. He's got a chance of getting the ball.
that makes sense.
All right. Well, now, Eddie, I know you don't want to talk about 2007 World Cup, and you're probably
That's my favourite subject.
sick to talk
If
about.
I was on Mastermind, it would be my chosen subject. In 90 seconds.
Well, I definitely don't want to talk about that bag of shit, right?
Imagine the bullet you dodged.
I wasn't even picked for that.
Yeah.
Jeez. So what did I
Did
do
you a
that
favour.
was so bad to not get picked for that?
Well, I was kind of looking at people who might be able to turn a corner, and you were one of them, so I didn't bring you.
Well, we were all, as you said, a part of the 2007 tour of Argentina.
So when we were preparing for this, we were like, right, what do the three of us and Eddie have in common? 2007 tour Argentina. Barry was like, let's talk about that. That'd be brilliant. We were like, we've been on loads of tours, lad.
I was injured a lot. I broke my leg many times.
Think of it, man. You were so shit, you couldn't get brought to the 2007 World Cup. And we were a laughing stock.
What are your memories of that tour? Just entertain me.
Which tour? The tour.
The tour of Argentina.
Oh, it was crap, yeah. It was. Think about it. They stopped doing that. That was the last time they had to go on a tour the summer before a World Cup. Like, imagine going on a tour before a World Cup, coming home, then going to a World Cup. So that's how you got on the tour. I was bringing the first team.
Well, one of my memories of that tour, and touching on the Eddieisms, the Eddie one-liners, was we were in a meeting room and in the hotel, and one of the staff members came in speaking Spanish like loudly, and came into the meeting room and interrupted things. And Eddie goes, thinking he's fluent, "Vamos, vamos." We later discovered "vamos" means "come here urgently."
But he still left.
It was very clear.
He was like this. He's like Manuel.
That tour sucked. Nobody wanted to be on it.
I did.
That's why you didn't make the World
My
Cup
whole
squad.
family came out. It was my
You sent the wrong vibes. You were too happy.
I remember being getting into a lift with Eddie. My room was on the 27th floor, and we got in the basement, and it was an old hotel, and there was a good bit of silence throughout the hotel, and I think we just done a referee's report, and I turned and I was like, the referee's in good nick, isn't he? Did he play much? And you just went, I don't know. I was like, God. Fla, any memories of that tour?
It was a good laugh. I remember we had a big night out at the end, and I remember there was it's definitely not cool, but there was an awful lot of homeless people always living outside our.
It's definitely not cool.
Well, it's trying to tell a funny story, but it's
Getting very silly now.
yeah. There was someone got cancelled, but there was all these homeless people outside our hotel, and on the last day, then when we were leaving, we just gave them all our Irish gear. But then as we were leaving, and we were all a little bit hungover on the bus looking out, it just looked like the Irish team had this massive night out, and we're all sprawled outside the hotel, unable to get back in. And I was like, we better get out of here quickly.
We did have a massive night out that last night. I don't know if you remember, and we were on the way home, myself and Fla. It was about 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was bright out. Sun was coming up, and Fla had torn the sleeves off his number one's outfit.
I did not tear the sleeves off my number ones.
Someone tore
It
the
was
sleeves
like Triple
off.
H. I just had the sleeves removed off my suit jacket.
And we came across this guy who had a flower stall, and he he was watering his flowers, and he was the only one in the street. And Fla stopped and was like, "I'm so thirsty. Can I use your hose to water?" And your man looked at him and was like, complete. Handed him
no to Triple H. You don't say no to Triple H.
handed him the hose, and he took the hose and just started squirting him with the water. Your man was so pissed off, chased us down the road, and went flying around the corner, and he trips over the curb and fell into a bush, right? Well, do you remember in The Simpsons when Homer was fighting Bart's bigger brother, and Bart's bigger brother punches him, and he falls over a fire hydrant, and he falls over completely backwards, and he's bent in half. Fla ended up on a fence like that. I was bent down, I was trying to, crying, laughing, trying to pull him out of it.
Nearly took me out of the World Cup. That's when they cancelled those tours.
What's your best chance? You've got to get out of it. If you'd only known.
Yeah, if only we knew back then, huh?
But I suppose I do want to talk to you both about Andy Farrell's selection and what are your thoughts in his first selection as Irish coach?
I suppose he's gone for a lot of experience. I suppose I'm down here in Munster, so I better be careful what I say. I'd love to have seen Cooney start, just in the sense that he's been playing so well. We talk a lot about form, and I know there's different ways of looking at it. You want to have your experienced players, and you know Murray is a type of caliber player that he can go and produce the goods when he needs to. But I just feel like, you know, start Cooney. You know, that'll be on. Look, he's been. I'm from Leinster anyway, so. Boo.
You're gonna get it at some point.
Yeah, but just would like to see them get a shot. You know, like, if he doesn't start, he obviously is not starting the weekend. Will he get another chance to start? I don't know. Maybe he will, but I kind of feel like I would just love to have seen him in there and getting a shot. I just think he deserves it. I think if you're a player and you're week in, week out, playing well, you deserve to start. It doesn't matter what that other player has done. You know, that your opposition, yes, they might find their form again, but that's just my way of looking at it. Other people will look at it differently.
Interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Between himself and Cooney, because you imagine Cooney saying, "Well, what's the story? You're not starting. Why? Why am I not starting?" Because it's kind of selection is a tricky thing, because you actually if you're kind of basically if you pick or drop a guy, it's the worst part of the job is dropping somebody, because you affect their career. You know, you change their value in the marketplace. So if you're going to pick on form, and we say we're going to pick on form, like when he had that conversation with Cooney, it would have been very difficult for Cooney to say, like, what do I need to do to get in this Irish team? Like, what do I have to do? Like, he's at the peak of his powers. He's moved to Ulster. He's really did everything he's been asked to do. He's the form scrum half in the country. And I'm a huge fan of Connor's. I said in the past Connor was the best scrum half in the world, and he was at that time. He's not where he was that time. And Cooney, I think, is in front of him on form. So I just wonder what Andy Farrell's conversation was. Well, I know you're the best scrum half we have, but we're not starting you. Like, I don't understand how that goes, because if you drop a player, you owe him an explanation. You know, you owe him an explanation. And if you don't pick him when he should be picked, you owe him an explanation. That's all you can do. And I still think Farrell's got to do what he thinks is right, but it's a tough one for Cooney, because, as Ali says, he's done everything he's been asked of him. So what more can he do and not make it? That's all.
Johnny, sorry.
Do you dread that conversation?
It's horrible.
Did you dread having a conversation with Barry and tell him he wasn't coming?
I was awake all night.
Or was that an easy one?
I was awake all night for that, Barry. It took me hours to get over. How don't you
Barry's
feel?
like, what do I have to do to get into the World Cup? And
Do you know, it's funny though, the worst ones are the World Cup ones. Because if you drop somebody in the autumn, there's always a Six Nations. If you drop somebody in the Six Nations, they can always come back. There's a summer tour. But it's one World Cup every 4 years. So when you say to a guy, you're not going to the World Cup, like, that's 4 years of work gone. And you don't do it lightly, but you can still only put 30 guys on the plane as it was then. So it's probably the worst conversation. I remember most of the World Cup ones vividly, because they were so important to the guys you were doing it to. And you don't know if you're right. You're a coach and you make a decision, and all you can do is do what you think is right and give the guy an explanation. And he never agrees with it. He always thinks you're an asshole at the end of the explanation. But in some ways, I prefer he did, because if he was happy, you know, I'd be saying, well, I made a right decision. If a guy's pissed off at you, you have to say, maybe I shouldn't have done it. So it's a rather complex thing. I think I've only ever dropped one player that said it was a good decision. You know, the rest of them were pissed off. He's from around these environs, actually. And relax, Barry, that's not true.
I probably would have said that anyway.
But he knew himself that he'd play really badly. Okay. And I said, look, you're not in the next week. And he said, yeah, it's a good call, fair play. And he left.
Back to Cooney and Murray. Do you reckon Sexton has a part to play in that decision? As captain, obviously he's going to be in Andy Farrell's, not in his ear, but that conversation will be there. And the combination of Sexton and Murray is so strong and has been there for so long. Is he going to go, well, Cooney's a bit of a maverick, essentially. So if we're going into Six Nations where Sexton wants the ball.
I can only speak for myself, but when I was picking a team, I would get opinions from people. Obviously, the people in the room would be the manager, the assistant coach, and some of those selection meetings could take 2 hours. You wouldn't have a player at a selection meeting, but you might get an opinion off a senior player. But at the end of the day, that was never going to be the difference. So I can't imagine that Johnny Sexton is the reason that he's gone with Connor. I think that's down to him. He thinks that's the right. And look, he's doing. We might disagree with that, but I think Andy Farrell is doing this because he thinks this is the right way to go next weekend. But as Ellie says, like, it's a tough call on John Cooney. Whatever you dice it, it's a very tough call.
Have either of you, like your experience? You worked very close with Eddie for a long time. What was your, I suppose, relationship like with him?
Well, I got my first cap under Eddie, and I learned a huge amount. I'll be honest. I always knew you were a brilliant coach. I knew you were, that you were very, very driven. You worked very hard. But I'm interested in people are talking about Joe Schmidt and how he was perceived by the players, and they're talking about Andy Farrell now, and Andy Farrell trying to have a bit more of a relaxed approach. I always found, like, since I've retired and I've gotten to chat to you more, particularly on coaching, I find you a great laugh, really, really engaging. But I never got to know you as when I was a player and you were a coach. So, what was it that was?
Well, it's a really good question, and I'll answer it this way by saying I honestly answer saying when I look back at it now, there is a tinge of regret that when I coached players, I didn't engage them on a personal level more. I was a bit detached. And I suppose that then people think you're cold and calculating, which you have to be to an extent. Now, the other side of that, the reason I kind of stayed on that side of the line is that when you're a coach, and it sounds a bit schmaltzy, but you're actually you're in a parenting role in the sense that you've all these kids and you can't show favoritism to anyone. Like, which is your favorite kid? You can't answer that question as a parent. And if you engage, it's impossible to engage 30 people on an ongoing basis, or you spend your time telling jokes, and laughing. So you're inevitably going to engage one person more than another. And players are very conscious. You've been in camp and you watch who's the coach is talking to, all those body images of talking to a certain fella, or having a chat here, a chat there. So I always felt to stay back from that, not to. And then let's say you have a great relationship with a player and you have to drop him. It's even more difficult. So, but I would say in retrospect, if I had it back, I probably should have engaged more with guys on a personal level. But it was something I wasn't terribly comfortable with because I was afraid that it would make life difficult for us down the track. That was really it. But it doesn't mean it was the right thing to do. I would say in retrospect, I probably should have been a little more on that side of it. And maybe I'm not particularly good at that. It was like a business arrangement when you're in camp. It's all right you find me having chats with you on Monday, before training and having a crack with you, and then I announce the team and you're not on it. All those dynamics are a factor. But I still go back to the point, if I go back over, I should probably have been more open about engaging. And I would say, I wouldn't say I regret it, but I would think, I'd be wiser after the end of it.
Good
Ali,
answer.
10 years in the Six Nations camp with different coaches. Great answer, sorry.
Exactly.
On the other side of what Eddie's talking about, have you gone through different coaches with those different styles, and which one do you think worked for you? Did it depend on where you were in your career?
I suppose, yeah, and I think I had success with two coaches that were completely different. One coach who I just avoid, you just try and avoid him in the lift, try and avoid him at meal times. I used to stay away. I didn't want to have, and you kind of were always very nervous around him. We did really well. It was very well disciplined, and we did great things. I didn't enjoy my rugby as much, though. We were highly successful, and I played well. But I don't know if I could have sustained like that level of, I don't know what you call it, maybe tension, or, you were always on edge. But we did play really well. But maybe we wouldn't have been able to play that well if we kept going. Where then this coach came in, who was very personable, had good people skills, was able to manage, but was very good technically and tactically as well. And I just loved going training, and I never felt I couldn't approach him or, ring him. And not in a sense that you in a weird way or anything, but they're laughing there. And I really enjoyed that era. I love my rugby, and I look forward to every single session. We did good things during it, but they were completely different. So, but I know, this is from a player's perspective, I know when I was in the era of the first coach was highly strict, some girls loved that. And then the more relaxed, we won't say relaxed, just different styles, certain girls hated that. So you're not going to please all type of players, because we're all different at the end of the day. We all have different approaches, and, that's just the way it is. So certain players are going to react to certain coaches, and that's why you know, if you talk to certain players, well, I really liked him or her as a coach, but certain players like, oh, I didn't. So I just felt that highly where he was kind of very standoffish and, yeah, I could play for a certain amount, but I don't know if I could play a few more years at that level without getting very mentally tired and exhausted by the whole thing. So it's interesting.
Which one? Sorry to interrupt. Which one were you more successful under?
Probably the first one, but that has a thing. It has a lifespan of that kind of coaching, and maybe that's where Joe Smith got a bit of criticism towards the latter part of his career. That maybe he had such success. I don't know. He came in and coached us a few times with the Irish women, and he was brilliant, and I really enjoyed the sessions. But does that have a certain shelf life? I don't know. Can you, did those group of players after a while not able to keep mentally, I don't know what the word is, fresh under that kind of regime? And maybe this is why a different approach with Andy Farrell just might be the thing that's needed. Suddenly you just need a different approach, and we all have to adapt. And that sport is like that. You're going to have to adapt to what things change, and coaches will bring a different approach. And in order to be successful as an athlete, you're going to have to be adaptable. So maybe you got used to doing something, and someone comes in and mixes it up. Well, you got to go with it, So it's interesting, but I suppose that's maybe where it fell down at the World Cup. That highly. It was controlling the media and everything. And I definitely felt maybe Joe Smith, I'd be fairly observant. I just think he got a little bit more defensive the last year or two about a lot of things, even just interviews and fairly basic questions. So maybe there's a time and place for that, but what's the time span of that level, that style? I don't know.
Eddie, your take on where the team is going to go now under Andy Farrell? You know better than anyone else how limited the time frame is that he's got to come in and get those players and put his stamp on the team. How much can he change? How different do you think that Irish team is going to look from a playing wise?
I think he has a couple of advantages at the moment that are going to be in his favour if he wants to take those advantages. One is he's been around the team. So if you're coming in fresh as a head coach and you have never been involved with the group, you've a lot of people to get to know. They've got to figure out the way you communicate. But he's been around that team now for a few years, so the lads know him. No, that doesn't mean he won't have to put his stamp on it. So he has that advantage. Two, he knows the players, their skills. He knows how they operate under pressure. He also has been part of that team. And I think the Irish journey is interesting under Joe Schmidt, because I thought in 2018 Ireland were just phenomenal. They were absolutely phenomenal. They won the Grand Slam. They beat the All Blacks. It was just like they were peak of their powers. And for some reason in 19 they went into themselves. They changed, became very narrow, very attritional. And the signs were there on the Six Nations. If you go back to the last Six Nations, we lost the two big ones badly. We got well beaten by England and well beaten by Wales, and our game plan wasn't working. Now, that to your question, Andy Farrell has been through all that. He's been an integral part of it, although not the head coach. So all he has to do is kind of make a few adjustments and go back more towards what they were doing in 18. What they were doing in 18 was brilliant, and it's an evolution, not a revolution. So I think if Ireland run with the ball a bit more, back out of the box kick, back out of the one-off runners, when you make line breaks, move the ball 2 passes away and see what happens, instead of playing in an area the size of the back of a car, for 50 phases, and that's became our MO, and that was not what we were in 18. So I think, to your question, he can transition to that form of 18 because he knows the players, he knows their strengths and weaknesses, and people want to go there as well. So I think he's in a good place. Now, the final thing in his favour, not putting any pressure on him, is that this fixture list is really good, all right? You've got 2 games at home. Scotland, we should beat Scotland, and I'm not trying to be an ass, but Scotland have won 3 times against Ireland in the Six Nations in 20 years. So, let's not get carried away. This is Scotland we're playing. We should put them to the sword. Job done. Wales, all right. We still have a good record in Dublin. So it all hinges in Twickenham. If we go to Twickenham, we'll have 2 wins going to Twickenham. If we win in Twickenham, we're going to Paris 3 weeks later for a Grand Slam. So that could be, this year could be massive. So, like, the pathway is there for him, but he does probably, the thing you probably look for is, are we starting to expand or, spread our wings a bit in the first 2 games? Because we're going to have to do that to succeed in Twickenham. We won't go to Twickenham and beat England up and come home with a win. So the first 2 games are going to be critical if he has the wherewithal to get that happening again. And that's what I'm looking for next weekend and the weekend after.
Did you always prefer this fixture list, the 3 home matches with the 2 French and England, 1 away, or having France and England, who are
it's
obviously going to be...
different now because in my time France were fucking really hard to beat. I mean, they were. We effectively lost 3 championships to France. If you think about it, there was the one in Croker that went in the last minute. We lost one in 2007 where they got a jammy try against Scotland that nobody saw, and we were in Rome. There was a few of those games. So France were a nightmare back then under Laporte and that, but France are not the same team they were 10 or 15 years ago. So we've beaten France comfortably. So at the moment, it really hinges on, this is a good fixture because you really have to go to Twickenham. And let's be honest, Twickenham's not the most difficult place to win. It is tough, but we can win there. We know we can win there. So that's why, in my time, you were always looking, can you win in London and Paris the same season? It's a tough one. Whereas now that's not the same problem. The problem now is definitely Twickenham. And I give credit, we used to kick the snot out of the Welsh in Dublin and always have to dig one out away. And you don't know what the Welsh, what they'll show up with, but our record in Dublin is good. So I think this is the fixtures I would like, for sure.
Okay.
Can I just want to ask a question, because this came up a lot after the World Cup, and it used to piss me off all the time. But I've never been in the position, but you have. When people talk about we flopped at another World Cup, why don't we just sacrifice the Six Nations and focus on the World Cup 4 years down the line? But to me, that has always sounded so ridiculous that you can just go out and just say, I'm just going to blood players and sacrifice results. As a national head coach for 7-8 years, is that feasible? No. Can a coach be afforded that?
It's not feasible for a number of really good reasons. One is, if you start that as a head coach, you won't be around for the World Cup. You get your P45. And you're told by the RFU. The RFU say every year the Six Nations is a benchmark. You better do as well as you can. You don't have to win the Six Nations every year. Like in the 90s, if we won 2 championship games every year, we'd be celebrating. Now, if you win 2 championship games, you get your P45. So it's changed. The expectations changed. So one is it's a benchmark for the RFU. 2, the money involved. Now, the money is not just the prize money. Or the television money. It's the fact that if we win a Grand Slam or we win a championship, the number of tickets that can be sold, the sponsorship deals go up, the number of jerseys we sell, the merchandising. It's a cash cow in terms of getting ourselves up in the top 4 of the world rankings. So you can't write off 3 years and then say, oh, it'll be all right on the night. And then how do you carry? If you're a team like Ireland, if you're on a bungee cord for 3 years, you win one, you lose one, the supporters don't want that. But we still want to win next weekend. We don't care about the World Cup in France in 4 years' time. So it's a fairly empty argument when you unpack it like that. And I don't know any coach that's saying, yeah, it's all about the World Cup. No, I know the French are the way they pick their squad. And Laporte, here's a good story about Laporte. Laporte was a coach in 2007, and they beat New Zealand, and they lost to England in the semi-final, and they were in France. And Laporte, I know Laporte, he's a really, really smart guy. He's a really smart coach. He became president back 3 or 4 years ago. One reason only, to win the World Cup in France in 23. And he was the guy that made sure I went to France. He took it away from Ireland with the way he politics his way around it. So, they're taking a long-term view. But I wouldn't say if they have 2 bad Six Nations, they'll fire their coach. They won't wear it for 4 years. So it's an empty argument, really, in my view. And I think there's, 10 better reasons for competing every year, and then try your hat at it and see what happens in the World Cup.
Okay, based on Andy Farrell's selection and I suppose how we're shaping up predictions for the weekend and predictions for who you think will come out on top at the end of the Six Nations. Go to you first, Ed.
I think we'll go to Twickenham with 2 wins. I would agree with Fla there. He's mentioned earlier. The one thing that will cause us trouble next Saturday is our line-out. I just have a little fear that we've 2 banker jumpers in our line-out, and we've 2 Ulster players, the hooker and the jumper, who haven't been going well. So I think if Scotland could cause us trouble, but that aside, I think we'll beat Scotland, we'll beat Wales. I think Twickenham is the one, and I don't know if we'll beat. I don't know what England are going to be like, because England, if you think of the English players, their lives kind of vanished at the World Cup, and that everything for the last 3 years or 4 years is World Cup. And now they went into the World Cup, they come out the far side, and they haven't won the World Cup. So Eddie Jones has to recalibrate everything, reset everything, re-energise guys. And he's got mainly the same squad. He's changed his coaches around to freshen it. But I don't know what England are going to bring. So we'll have a better picture of that before we get to Twickenham. But if we can win in Twickenham, I think we go on and win a Grand Slam. And I'm really optimistic about it. So I'd be glass definitely half full and filling.
Brilliant. Love it. Skellig Michael.
Yeah, I think we're going to win at the weekend, and I think a lot will. I suppose how momentum then, how we got on, but England might cause a problem. I think.
French.
Yeah, you just don't know what you're going to get with the French ever, which is great, because they're capable of being fantastic one week and then the following week. So you don't know when they could produce that good game. It could that be against us, against someone else? You don't know. So I'm not wanting to look too far ahead. So I'm just going to think they're going to win this weekend, and I think they get a good performance, play well, and then get a bit of confidence up. I think they could do something, but time will tell, and the momentum that they get and performances and a little bit of confidence, because all these players have had. A lot of them have tough World Cup. They need to get their confidence up again. And it's great to see, say, Andrew Conway playing. I think maybe Earl's knock or whatever has brought him in there, but he deserves that starting position. He was the most informed back in the World Cup. So it's great to see him get a shot and see what he can do. He works hard at it. So players like that. And I think it's interesting what you were just saying about the long-term and short-term view of getting to a World Cup. I just look at it a bit little different. Say, in this year's Six Nations, in the run-up to the World Cup, we consistently played players that were maybe at a certain age profile that weren't playing well. And maybe it's not that you're trying to not that a coach is going out there not to win a Six Nations, but if you're coming into a World Cup like we were last year in 2019, into the World Cup, and there's a few players that are getting to a certain age profile, not playing well, well, why don't you play the informed players for those games leading into the World Cup? So those players then, during that summer, have played a bit more. There's more opportunities, and then you're in a better position. But that doesn't mean you're not trying to lose the Six Nations. But it's a short, you're looking ahead to that World Cup. But I just think I just meant to say it when you were saying it there, that I think that's a way of looking at it, you're not going, well, and trust this guy, but he's not performing, and then he still plays in a World Cup, and then doesn't perform in that World Cup. So maybe we could look at it like that even. I think is interesting,
Woo! Okay, well, you've got the inside scoop on what way results might go. And look, I'm not sure if any of you remember, but earlier tonight we were talking about Match Pint. And we asked you to join in the House of Rugby League on the Match Pint app and send us a screenshot of yourself in the league. Producer Pat has selected 2 of you to come up on stage. I hope there's more than just the 2 that entered earlier on. Is there?
There was 46 entries in the end.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Do you want to pick a winner, Pat? 2 winners.
There's Michael Buckley is one.
Way! Michael Buckley! Come up on stage. Come up on stage, Michael Buckley.
And there's Decky Collins is another one.
Decky Collins! Oh, is it Mikey Collins and Decky Buckley? Where do you want them to go?
No, actually, they can stay. They can come hang out with me
Okay.
because Ali and Eddie are going to be their surrogates during this competition.
Okay.
So if is Decky in the building? Is he conscious?
Okay.
Here he is. And I also want to say good luck to Joe McLaughlin, who's off to his marriage counselling course at the weekend as well.
Best of luck, Joe. Run for your life.
So we have a little bit of a competition here, lads. And if we can get Deck, if Ali, if you'll represent Deck, and I've forgotten your name. Michael, sorry. Michael, Eddie, if you'll represent Michael. We have a little bit of a lookalikes quiz, okay? And we're just going to throw up a couple of images here, and they're fairly obvious. Obviously, everyone recognises Ireland's beloved broadcaster Derek Davis. Who is this guy's lookalike? Ali.
Rugby player.
Oh, she's very close to the screen. I'll give you a clue. I'm terrible at these things.
I'm not going to put Derek Davis
I
up
was
there
going to
if
say
he
he
looks
looks a bit like
me.
Donald Trump, but he's not a rugby player.
He's a current Munster player. Potentially
Current
front
Munster
row.
player.
Go on, shout it out.
Stephen Archer.
Stephen Archer, can we reveal, please? There we go. Very accurate. Okay, one for Deck. Okay,
Look alike.
Eddie, you're up next. Mo from The Simpsons. What rugby coach?
This is tough, man.
Steve
This-
Larkham.
What's Eddie Jones?
Stephen Archer again.
Larkham.
Reveal, please.
Larkham.
Les Kiss. So it's 1-0 currently
Can
to
I bring
Ali.
input? I came up with this and I googled. Oh, go back to Les Kiss. I googled Les Kiss and the images that came up were just a load of women kissing. So I was like, man, I wonder if Les Kiss has ever been in a situation where his wife has walked in on him and he's just like. With a load of images in front of his screen. He's like, no, I was just Googling my name.
Okay, let's
Anyway.
go. Eddie, this one's for you. This is
That's Ali.
Ali, Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool. Say what you see. Say what you see.
Peter Stringer.
Reveal, please. Paul O'Connell.
You get it right, did you? No. Oh,
Okay.
I thought it was Paul O'Connell when you put it up first.
Oh, look, that's the roll of the dice. Eddie, you're up next. Next,
Uncanny.
please.
Jesus.
We have.
Aye, lads.
This is the yellow bastard from Sin City.
It's a coach.
This one's a bit obscure, I think.
He's a coach.
It's a coach.
Leo Cullen. Leo Cullen.
Unfortunately, no. Reveal, please. So still,
He loved that. He loved that.
Declan's still in the lead. Okay, Ali, E from Entourage.
Whoa.
He's a current player.
Retired.
Right.
Owen Redden.
Yeah.
That is uncanny. Okay, Eddie, you're up next. 2-0.
Aye, lads.
A beluga. A beluga.
Come on,
Excuse me.
I've got a human yet.
A beluga whale. He was a former Ulster player. Prop.
Former Ulster player.
Former Ulster prop. Looks like a beluga whale.
I'm not asking you.
Okay, reveal, please.
Anybody?
Callum Black.
Where do you get them from?
I think that's pretty close. Okay, Ali, you're up next. 2-0 to Ali. We have Slimer from Ghostbusters.
Kilcoyne.
Reveal. Reveal, please. 3-0. Dick, I think you've won this one 3-0. Congratulations.
I won't up the day job.
Jesus, yeah.
All right. Because both of you were such good sports, we're going to give you both tickets for the game. Is that right, Pat? Both tickets for the game. Well done, lads. Two tickets each for the Irish match. Congratulations. Look, I think, lads, we've had an unbelievable night. Thank you all so much for coming. Give yourselves a round of applause, first and foremost. Thank you to Reardens in Cork for putting on an unbelievable spread. And the nightclub is open upstairs afterwards. Trimby's going to be stripping up there to the Fields Bath and Rye if anyone wants to go. Thank you to Ali and thank you to Eddie O'Sullivan for coming on and for chatting to us. Cheers to everyone involved in making the show. This has been Baz and Andrew's House of Rugby here on Joe. Together with Guinness, party on.
Party on.